Welcome back to Fast Politics, Justin Wolfers.
Well, I love how excited you always sound about talking about economics. You say, "Thank goodness it's economics day. I can talk to Justin.
That's
I'm so
right.
excited."
Things are going great. Every time we talk about the numbers that come out of this admin, we finally got some labor numbers from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Talk us through what these numbers mean.
Okay, can we do a second rehearsal where you sound less bored?
Well, no, I'm not bored. I'm cynical about these numbers.
Okay.
And I don't know how cynical to be about these numbers because remember, I mean, I know it was 6 months ago, but Trump did fire the head of this organization because he didn't like the set of numbers they released. So I want you to sort of talk us through what they mean, if they're real, et cetera, et cetera. It's not
Great.
boredom, it's cynicism.
Okay, great. So the numbers were good enough that he didn't fire anyone this morning.
Right.
So let me go back a step and bring your whole audience in, right? We're always trying to get a pulse of what's going on in the economy. You might think that measuring the economy is very straightforward. It turns out for an economy this big and this complicated, it's very, very complicated indeed.
Because you have
The
different elements of the economy.
Yeah, how do you even know who's doing business? How do you know how many people are out there? How do you know you might be able to say what share of people have a job, but how many people are there in the US even? There are so many unknowns. And this makes this a surprisingly difficult technical task. So, the most reliable indicator is what we call the jobs report. It's why you and I, Molly, tend to talk on average after the first Friday of every month, which is when these latest numbers come out. Measures the unemployment rate, which is one of the best indicators for how the economy is doing for you and I. But the one the markets really watch is employment growth. They watch that because it's got very good statistical properties. There's more
Right.
signal than noise. Normally, in a normal year, I would then end the lesson there and move to talking about the world. But we're not in the normal moment. We're in a moment where, as you say, Molly, the president fires statisticians who give him facts he doesn't like, has tried to put in place charlatans and clowns and undermined the very notion of truth. So how much should you believe these numbers? And the answer is, so far, these are as honest as can be. So I believe them. Now, let me be clear about what I do and don't believe. What I believe is that these are a serious estimate of what's going on using serious high quality statistical methods. Now, remember, it's always difficult, so that doesn't mean they're exactly right. Second thing is, right now, things are even more complicated because we just had a government shutdown where some numbers weren't collected, and even more, the Bureau of Labor Statistics is under resourced. But what I don't
We
believe has
uh,
happened,
we had the longest government shutdown ever, so there's not a precedent for it.
right, for the first time since 1939, we literally skipped a month of measuring employment and unemployment in the United States, which we'd never done before. I know, Molly, like me, it kept you awake, thrashing in the
Oh,
middle of the
yeah.
night,
Yeah.
cold
That was
sweat.
what did it.
To the viewers, I should the audience, I should let them know Molly would call me and just say, "Hold me. What is going on?" So, all of this makes things more complicated, plus the economy is even more complicated because what we have is an enormous immigration shock going on, and so it makes it even more difficult to know literally how many Americans there are. What hasn't happened is these numbers went to the White House, and the White House said, "No, no, the Department of Lies and Propaganda would like you to believe the following instead." So these are true numbers. Now, here's the other way I know they're true. They don't serve the administration's purpose. What
Say more.
happened this month is we learned that job growth last month was 50,000, which is very, very low. That's so low that you could say you'd call it nearly zero. We had almost no job growth. And then the other thing that happens is every month we learn more about what happened earlier in our history.
With
Sometimes
revisions.
businesses don't send in their reports of how many people are on payroll on time, and they send them in a little bit later. As a result, we revised the numbers to make them more accurate. And one of the really big things that happened was that we learned, in fact, that October is one of the worst recent months we've had. That jobs fell enormously in October, and they rose by less than we'd previously thought in November. Again, for the audience, I don't want you to take month to month up and downs very seriously. Often what we'll do is we'll average over what's happened
Right.
over the past 3 months,
But
and when
it's
you do that,
proof.
here's the payoff. Long
uh,
lecture, finally the payoff. When you look at the last 3 months, we're losing jobs.
and it's proof that they're not juicing the numbers. The point you're saying is that if they were juicing the numbers, they would have made them great.
If they were liars, If they were high quality liars, these wouldn't be the lies they'd tell. There's a little bit I'll leave unsaid right there. But
Yeah.
no, these are absolutely serious estimates. What these estimates tell us though is that we're in a jobs recession, by which I mean it's not clear. A recession typically means output is declining. It may be, we're going to find out, but the number of jobs is declining. The number of workers, people in work, is declining. It's been declining for the past 3 months. It's also the case that for wildly uninteresting technical reasons, these numbers may be overstated. Fed Chair Powell said at his last press conference he thinks they're overstated by 60,000 per month. Based on these numbers, ever since Liberation Day, remember the beginning of Trump's trade war that happened in April, we've created almost no jobs. It may be that we subsequently learn we've actually been shrinking the number of jobs we have in the economy since Liberation Day.
So it could literally be zero.
Right now, it's awfully close to zero.
So,
It
but it
could
could
literally
literally be
be
negative 50,000.
more than that. It negative 50,000 per month,
Wow.
over the last 7 months. So
And this is just,
8
and you
months,
don't
sorry.
have, and these measures don't measure every aspect of employment, right? Because certain employment comes in later. That's why there's revisions.
What Powell said, the Fed chair who has the best economic staff in the world, is he said their estimate is that these numbers overestimate monthly job growth by 60,000 for, quote,
So negative
technical
10.
reasons. Now, let me explain what technical reasons are so you understand why this isn't so simple. Really, what the way we measure employment is we send out forms to all the firms that are out there and ask them how many workers they have. Now, if I sent out a form to 1 in every 100 firms that are out there, then all I'd do is I'd take the total number of workers and I'd multiply by 100, and that would tell me how many jobs there were. The problem is we don't know if we're sending them out to 1 in 100 or 1 in 101 because we don't know how many firms there are. The reason for that is every day businesses are dying and every day new businesses are being born, and the government doesn't necessarily see them until the next tax season. So we literally don't know how many businesses there are. And so if there are fewer small businesses being born, or if there are more old businesses dying than we'd previously thought, and there's good reasons to think that's the case based on other statistics, then our existing methods, which are honest but inaccurate.
Right.
So look, no one expects that the current pessimistic numbers that show no job growth. Let me get rid of the negatives, double negatives. The current numbers show no job growth, effectively no job growth since Liberation Day. Everyone expects that to be an overstatement, too rosy, too optimistic.
Wow. Okay.
If anything,
It's
reality is
worse.
worse.
So we're going to go to the next question here, which is the Dow, which is not the economy, the markets, public markets.
I just want to stick on jobs for a moment because I think that I really do want people to understand the job market is in a very dire strait. So the first thing I want to say is this is the end of December data.
Right.
And so we have the full year. What happened in 2025? 2025 is one of the worst years outside of a recession we've ever had.
Right.
Second fact I like just because I think it's fun is since Liberation Day, Canada has produced more jobs than the United States. Canada, who arguably were meant to be one of the biggest losers out of our trade war, Canada, which is 1/10 the size of the United States, is producing almost twice as many jobs. So
Why?
really what's going on is the United States economy has stopped. That's the
Why?
problem. Why? Look
Why?
around you.
No, I know why the American economy has stopped, but I want to know why Canada's picked up all the slack.
No, it's not that American jobs have gone across the border necessarily. It's just that the American economy has stopped and other economies have not.
So
Um,
they're picking up the slack. So if you could import export with the US and now you can't because it's too expensive, you just go to Canada where it's cheaper.
I'm not gonna bite at that. I just wanna say there are 2 economies that happen to be next to each other. One of them has stopped growing and the other has not. That
Right.
tells you something has gone wrong in the United States that has not happened elsewhere through North America. That's the point.
Wow. That seems
Can
like a
you
big
think of
deal.
anything that's happened in the United States but not in other countries?
No, certainly not. And certainly not a trade war that's good and easy to win. Even though the real number of tariffs we know from the New York Times reporting is the tariff numbers are actually about half what the administration is saying they are, but
Let's go
still enough.
Right.
to kill the economy.
Let's go back and explain that two ways. I want to be clear about what the New York Times is saying, and I want to be clear about what's going on with the economy. I'm
Yeah.
sorry for being the boring professor. Every time you say something interesting, I'm like, let's slow down and explain.
But no, it's good.
Okay. So a question I've gotten frequently is if tariffs are so bad, why hasn't it destroyed the American economy? But one of the things is we actually haven't had tariffs very much, right? Remember, Trump was elected in January. Everyone said, "Where's your tariff regime?" And he finally got around to it in April. He announced it in
Mhm.
April on Liberation Day, and then 7 days later said, "Oh, just kidding. I didn't realize that would freak global markets out. I'm now gonna take 90 days off." He
Right.
then took 90 days off. That takes you from April through to April, May, June, July. And then he got to July and then realized he hadn't made 90 deals in 90 days. In fact, he'd made none and said, well, we're going to put the tariffs back on. But he realized in that 90 days he'd forgotten to think about what they should be. So he gave himself another
Mhm.
24-day extension, then announced a set of tariffs actually were remarkably similar to what they'd been way back in April. And then his tariff nerds said, well, we can't get that entered in the computers quick enough. That'll take another 7 days. And so once we start to faff around, it takes till like August or September until we get tariffs, by which point he also starts offering exceptions. So went back, renegotiated with Canada, and basically most trade with Canada became tariff-free. He backed down on a range of things, remember the term taco, and it turns out if you're willing to bring just the right bauble to the White House, you can whisper and say, "Hey, we'd like a special exemption or exception here, there, or somewhere else." And so it turns out there's the tariff regime as announced, and there's the tariff regime as actually implemented. So first of all, the announcements were months ahead of the implementation. The second thing is the announcements were big and public and the walkbacks were fairly private. And so it turns out the amount of tariff revenue we've taken in is much less than you would have expected given the bold pronouncements, which is to say there are now so many exceptions, loopholes riddled through the whole darn thing that, and I think this is good news, Trump has actually implemented fewer tariffs than he said he would. That's the reporting from the New York Times. So we do have tariffs, but they're not quite as bad as Trump
And they're at a lower
thinks.
rate than he says they
Right.
are.
Right. Now, let's come back. Well, if there's not huge tariffs, what's going on with the economy? So first of all, one, these are still big. These are still the biggest tariffs we've had in about 80, 90, 100 years. Second of all, tariffs aren't the only thing. Tariffs might be the only thing people like to talk to me about, but they're not the whole economy. So what else is going on in the economy? I think the first thing is a huge crash in confidence. You look at consumer confidence, it's never been this low. You look at the share of Americans who judge the quality of American macroeconomic policy as being poor, it's literally never been this high. Right away, that's gonna cause problems. The second thing is you've got this tremendous rise in uncertainty, right? The uncertainty is partly tariffs. Will we get into trade war with China next weekend? Probably depends on what's happening with Epstein more than anything else. The uncertainty, though, is far greater than that, right? Remember, the CEO of Intel walked into the White House and walked out having accidentally left behind 10% of his company that somehow got
Mhm.
nationalized. The White House is taking big positions in private sector companies. The White House is calling CEOs and telling them what to do. The White House is picking up foreign leaders and just bringing them
Ugh.
home. The White House is deciding
And
if
their
and when,
wives.
and their wives. And the White House is deciding if and which states, American states it wants to invade next. All of this is tremendous cause of uncertainty. We're 2 weeks away from a healthcare overhaul. Of course, we've been 2 weeks away from a new healthcare plan now for 10 years. All of this means if you were my staff and you came to me with a big investment project, you said, "Justin, we should invest millions in this new factory." I would say to you, "Hey, Molly, how much does it cost to wait a few months and see if some of these regulations actually pan out in ways that would undermine my investment?" I've always got the possibility of delaying, and that's
Mhm.
become an absolutely compelling choice now for a lot of companies, and that's part of what's going on with the economy too.
All important and relevant things. So let's talk through what we are going to see now. The markets are doing really well. And there's an understanding that it's like a K-shaped economy, that it's a recovery where we're seeing tech giants make money. Maybe it's an AI. I mean, is this a bubble or is this a part of a healthy economy? Explain to us what is happening.
Okay, I'm gonna start again once a lot there, so we'll go slowly. Let me start with the claim that the stock market is doing well. It's perhaps the White House's most frequent economic claim. They're like, every economist out there says our policies suck, but look what's happening to the stock market. Now, the thing is, the stock market reflects two things. It reflects the underlying innovation impulses from the private sector and then possible changes caused by the public sector. One way of figuring out what is going on with the private sector is to look in other countries because things like AI are genuinely global, right? Things like a shift in global demand are genuinely global. And so once you do that, it turns out that the US stock market performance has actually been genuinely weak. Almost any other industrialized country you visit has had stronger stock market growth since inauguration day than the United States. We're at the very, very bottom. So that says there is something that's driving global markets up. Whatever it is, the US is doing worse relative to every other country. So normally if I were to look for, what could an administration claim credit for, I'd say compare the US to the rest of the world. Well, the US is doing worse than the rest of the world. That says markets have become relatively less optimistic about the US economy relative to every other economy since the administration came to power. So the claim that the stock market is says markets believe that what the administration is doing is good, I think is upside down and wrong. It shows the
Mhm.
infatuation. It shows that American business reporters know how to look up the Dow Jones, but don't know how to look up what's happening in the rest of the world. I know it's weird to say that Americans can be a little inward looking, but bear
Certainly
with me for a
not.
moment.
Yeah.
So actually, I think stocks are not voting for the president. Second, what the hell is going on? Well, we are in the middle of this extraordinary AI transformation. Whatever you think of it, AI is an extraordinary technology. There's two parts to the AI story. One part is the long run, which is many of the jobs that many of us do, many of the boring parts of our jobs, computers are going to be able to do. I choose to speak about that in optimistic terms, which is if it takes away the boring parts of yours and my job, Molly, you and I get to spend more time doing fun things. And that's been what past technological revolutions have done. So the structure of our labor market, of our economy, of our lives, what our children are going to grow up and do is going to be fundamentally different. But that's a statement about future decades. In order to create that, AI companies are gonna have to build out these huge data centers, which are literally just big rooms full of computers. And so what they're doing is they're in a race for the future, and so they're spending trillions of dollars, gajillions, 11 gajillion dollars on these data centers. And it turns out that that's a huge part of what's actually growing in the US economy right now. So then you can think about the US as being two economic stories. There's what's going on with the AI build out, which is gonna be short term, and there's what's going on with the rest of the economy. Well, the AI build out has been very strong. It has kept stocks up around the world. It's kept the American economy growing. The rest of the economy, though, has been very weak. In particular, the parts of the economy Trump claims to care about and that his policy agenda is meant to benefit manufacturing, the goods producing sector, which if anyone is helped by tariffs, it would be goods because tariffs are on goods. They're actually doing incredibly poorly. Much of the rest of the economy is looking pretty weak. Is that responsive, Molly?
Yes.
Okay.
Justin Wolfers, will you come back?
Yes, whenever you want.